Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Panels and Bars, where this week we are covering the complete Simpsons season 8. Patrick, what are you going to do to sabotage the opening of this episode?
Nothing. I'm staying very quiet. I was all like, don't do anything weird to ruin the opening.
I could,
But
I, I felt it was coming.
by virtue of my silence and your expectations, I've still ruined it. And
Yeah,
that's
thank
what
you.
you should be thinking about. That's a
It's actually
thinker
probably
for
most
you.
skillful sabotage so far. You did nothing
Yeah,
and
yeah.
ruined
When you're having,
the opening.
I also want you to think about that when you're having breakfast tomorrow. When you're
Thanks.
making yourself some food in the morning, I want you to just think that I'm gonna sabotage it, and then you'll ruin it for yourself. I don't have to do anything.
Thank you. So, um, something interesting happened whilst I was in the middle of this marathon, which was that I turned on the TV and rather than being set to Disney Plus, it was set to Channel 4, who happened to be showing a newer episode of The Simpsons. And it
Ugh.
was a modern Treehouse of Horror. I stopped watching after like season 20 something, so I don't know exactly what Treehouse of Horror this was. But it started off as a spoof of Diving Bell and the Butterfly, where Homer is paralyzed. And then halfway through being paralyzed, he realizes he can still fart. So he communicates to everyone via farts. So this is the level we're opening this with. And then halfway through that spoof, he is bitten by a spider. Oh yeah, but so he was paralyzed initially by a spider bite. Then he's bitten by another spider, and so the spoof becomes a Spider-Man spoof. However, Homer is still paralyzed. So even though he has all of Spider-Man's powers, he can't utilize them because he's paralyzed. And it's a series of jokes of him being on, he's web slinging, but he just bangs into buildings because he's still paralyzed, and then he farts. And it's just like, I feel like this is the type of thing that if you had pitched to the writer's room during Simpsons' heyday, you would have been immediately fired. And somehow this is the quality. Like another segment of the episode was 127 hours spoof where Homer is trapped under a rock, so he eats his arm.
I can't imagine being all like, right, guys, I've got this idea. What if Spider-Man was paralyzed?
Yeah.
Like, because it's just such a horrible, mean-spirited idea, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's just such an upsetting idea.
Yeah.
Like, also, why give somebody Spider-Man's powers if they're paralyzed? Like,
just
narratively,
not
that's an
funny,
insane
yeah.
choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen a Simpsons episode, a new one,
Don't.
for years. Like, I
It's
literally
a
haven't
weird thing
watched.
because I think the majority of, I'd say diehard fans, it's a weird thing to say diehard fans when like it's the biggest property in TV history, but I would say the majority of the fans are in kind of agreement that if we're being generous, the last good season was 10, and they've now had over 30 seasons. So it's like, I mean, if you look at the ratio of good to bad episodes, it's not great. But then the thing is, rewatching this season, the good episodes are so good that it's hard to like dismiss the show because it's so good.
I think there's an episode in season 12 that I like. That's my
Oh,
memory of it.
I'm sure
Is that
there's odd,
there's
I'm
an
sure there's odd,
episode in season 12 which is one of
yeah,
the ones
I'm
that I
sure there's
really
odd
like.
slices of brilliance. Like I haven't seen the Ricky Gervais episode, but I've heard good things about it. I haven't seen the Don Cheadle episode, but I've heard good things about it. There's an episode where Carl finds out that he's Swedish or something. Or I think he's always been Swedish, and then Lenny finally goes back to Sweden with him. So I've heard odd episodes where they've had like guest directors, and there was Banksy did one of the couch gags, and then Guillermo del Toro did a couch gag. So I know here and there, and obviously like the Death Note episode was trending last year. Like people are actually into Death Note, or like this is phenomenal. I think they hired the actual studio that did the original Death Note to do the
I mean,
adaptation.
what I would say is that Death Note's shit. So the
Okay.
people who are into that are not arbiters of taste. Death Note's Death Note's like Death Note's one of those things where if somebody's all like, "Yeah, I love anime. I really like Death Note," I'm always all like, "Well, it sounds like you don't like anime that much." Because if you'd have watched more than 5 things, you definitely wouldn't be listing Death Note.
Fair enough. Okay,
Um,
cool. Well, I mean, so like I believe that it's had odd sparks of brilliance, but it's man season. And the thing is, right, during this marathon, it just really occurred to me how much we took it for granted at the time. But
yeah,
there's like 24 episodes, and they're all insanely good. There's maybe three I would say aren't on the level as the others, and they're not bad. They don't quite hit the consistent high notes of the other episodes, but they're all entertaining.
Yeah, I would say that there's probably like 5 or 6 that are unbelievably good, and then
Yes.
there's a bunch that are good, and then yeah, there's a couple. I'm not super fond of the Homer becomes a boxer one.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy that, and the one with Mr. Burns' son's terrible.
Are you
Uh,
serious?
yeah, I think that one's awful.
I love it because I think Rodney Dangerfield is a really great idea for a Simpsons guest, and I think the fact that the thing is, I think the reason I love it is probably the reason you don't, which is that it doesn't really have a script. But I love that about it because they've just essentially gone, what's the easiest vehicle for us to just let Rodney Dangerfield do a bunch of Rodney Dangerfield jokes? And there is even a moment in it where he says, "Who am I talking to?" Because he's just
Yes,
doing a Rodney Dangerfield skit.
yes, I don't think he's funny.
Oh,
So
fair enough.
so I was just sat there like I don't like. There's no joke. He just keeps saying things in his weird voice, and I was like, I'm not seeing the
Fair enough.
humor.
I really like Rodney Dangerfield, so yeah, rest in peace. That episode worked for me personally.
Yeah, yeah. So I wasn't sure how because obviously I don't think we've got time to sit and talk about 25
Perfect.
episodes
Yeah,
of The Simpsons.
let's just bounce back and forth between what works. First of all, I'll say what works for me, and man, like talk about opening and closing a season. Can you imagine opening and closing a season with You Only Move Twice and Homer's Enemy? Like, just what an insane bookend of episodes.
So
Phenomenal.
on Disney Plus, the last one was the one where Bart and Lisa go to military school. But I'm
Yeah,
sure that's not the last episode of the
I don't
season,
think it
right?
is. No. Also, did
And
you notice
obviously,
this is not a big deal because we've all seen The Simpsons, but have you noticed how lazy the descriptions are for a lot of these?
I haven't. No, what I did notice is that it looks kind of shitty in
Mm,
terms of like it's certainly not like a fucking Blu-ray transfer quality.
no,
Like
no,
it
it's not.
looks. It looks like they've put it up at 480p and stretched it to the full screen. Like it looks really bad on Disney Plus.
I will say
Like
it's very inconsistent because some are quite vivid, and then some are like you say, it's like did they just is this just a machine that they've auto set to convert? It's not great.
yeah, and some of the lines are really like wonky and
Yeah,
weird. Like they haven't properly upscaled it. Like,
yeah,
but I suppose that maybe they were all like, "What's the dirt cheapest way to upscale this? Let's do that. People will fucking watch it anyway." Which, in
exactly.
fairness, I
You
did.
did.
So I can't exactly argue, can I?
Well, like the episode with Laddie, if you look at the description, the description is when Bart goes looking for his dog, he discovers it's been adopted by a blind man.
That's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
That's not the plot of the
that's
episode.
not the fucking episode. Like you're missing a great chunk of that synopsis there, Disney. And it's a few that I like that where it's like they really could not be. But it almost feel like they just went to Wikipedia and whatever like it highlighted, they were like copy and paste that. That works.
Well, I also kind of feel like again though, like surely nobody is looking at the descriptions of Simpsons
Yeah,
episodes, right? Like
yeah,
you're either watching The Simpsons because you know what The Simpsons is, or you're not. You're certainly not clicking on. There's nobody clicking on The Simpsons and being all like, "Huh, I wonder what this show's about." And
yeah,
specifically, I wonder what this episode's about. Like, that's just not going to be a thing, is it?
yeah.
So, like,
True.
I get that. I guess that maybe there's just no point, is there?
No,
So I wanted to highlight a couple of things.
go for it.
Number one being, I think Homer's Enemy is the funniest episode of
Yes,
TV I've ever
I,
seen in
I
my
know
life.
it's your favorite, and I do love it. Have you ever seen the video that refers to that episode as the day the Simpsons died?
No, but that's insane. That
It's
is
a
just
very good video. I recommend everyone check it out. I agree with it. I still like the show, but it makes a good point that it's hard to root for Homer after that because everything Frank Grimes says is true.
I don't want to root for Homer. Homer's it's funny because Homer's awful. Like
Yeah,
that's like the thing
I
about
know,
that
but this is the
episode.
thing. It's and like I said, The Simpsons, that episode gets away with it because it kind of leans into there's an almost innocence in Homer's laziness, right? But after that episode, they kind of lean into what Frank says in a mean way. And I think the movie is the best example of it, where it's like, he's just a piece of crap. Like in the other episodes, he's done really careless and thoughtless things, but he always realizes how much he loves Marge and the kids, and there'll always be a grand gesture because he wants to show he loves them. He made a mistake. The movie thinks it's doing that, but it really ends with him being like, well, I don't want to be by myself, so I guess I'll do what everyone wants me to do. He kind of comes across like a selfish prick in that, and like a lot of that happens post Homer's Enemy.
The movie's got the big dome, right?
Yes.
I saw that at the cinema and I've never watched it again because it was so bad.
It's so funny, right? Because I watched it at the cinema and I remember laughing, and I was in a cinema full of people who laughed at every line. I own it. I've never watched it since. I have no desire to watch it since.
Yeah, I think that because I think we were going to go see that together, but then didn't in the end for some reason, because you definitely saw that before me, because I remember talking to you about it and you being all like, yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I was all like, oh, okay, I think that's probably why I went to see it, to be honest.
What's interesting about this season is Matt Groening's talked about it. He's been wanting to make the movie since I think season 3. Like when it became a runaway hit and Bart's face was in every piece of merchandise, Fox was like, "Can we get a movie?" And he was like, "I would love to do a movie." And what happened was he pitched several episodes to the writers' room, and they were like, "That plot makes no sense." So what would happen is he kind of abandoned those, and then they would realize they were like 3 or 4 episodes short for a season, and he would toss one of the ideas he had for the movie. They would make it, and everyone would be like, "Oh, that was a great idea." And he'd be like, "Yeah, I told you, but we can't do it now because you've made it." So I think the first of those was Camp Krusty. That was his original plot for the movie. They didn't get it. They made it, and they were like, "Oh, we should have made that." And there's, I think, 3 or 4 episodes in this season were also. So I'm pretty sure You Only Move Twice, which would have been a great movie. There's a few others that were like they were roughly plots for the movie, and then they end up just being used as episodes.
I think though that like the thing with this season of The Simpsons is that it's so tight. Like that's the thing, is that like they're all so economically written and they're so funny because they don't milk their jokes or outstay their welcome. Like the thing about Homer's Enemy is that it is so full of jokes from the first second to the last one, and it's got sight gags and wordplay, and it's just packed full every fucking second. Like I love that beginning where Kent Brockman's just all like, which if true means death for us all. And it's just like, it's like cutting in at that point is so funny. Like and then it's immediately into blown up in a silo explosion, which is so funny. And then you cut straight to Mr. Burns saying that he wants to make him his executive vice president, which leads directly into the dog gag, which comes back around later when the dog's got the vice president sash on and he's barking at him while Mr. Burns is telling him off. Like all that stuff is
around. I love that, like the B story of Bart, which is just kind of a nothing B story, comes back around to Frank Grimes being like, your son even owns a factory downtown. Like it's just another thing on the list of accomplishments that Homer has that Frank doesn't have. I love it.
And the other thing that I really like about that, though, is that it is like a super light B story, but that's because the main episode's got a lot going on. So it's just like this extremely light thing where it's all like Bart bought a factory, him and Milhouse are like wrecking stuff in the factory falls down, and that's it. And it's still home to several, like, I love that shot where Bart throws the screw at the window and then it just lands miles short of the window. It's so funny because it's so obvious what's supposed to happen, and then the comedy is in it just failing miserably. The bit where the rat in the coffee cups in that, the bit where they just rip off the warning signs, like it's so good. And the main story is just unbelievably funny, to the point where like the acid and the bit where he wins the children's power plant design competition.
Also,
like,
I love that it fleshes out Lenny and Carl a bit. Like, first of all, they've both got master's degrees, but like I love the fact that like they acknowledge, everyone knows how stupid Homer is, but what are you gonna do? Like like what if what he says, it boggles the mind, and one says it's just best not to think about it. I love that element of them because you've always kind of been like, they don't seem stupid as Homer, but they put up with him, and it's like, you would have to. He's not gonna lose his job, and they like him as a guy, so just you go with it.
and they all think it's charming. They're all just like laughing about it. And Frank Grimes is obviously completely. And that's the thing is, what's funny about it is that it does point out all the bad things about Homer from a completely reasonable perspective. And it's like, and then he just dies, and and then Homer ruins the bit at the funeral where he's all like Frank Grimes, or Grimy as his friend as he likes to be called, and it's just like every single bit of it. That bit where where somebody's chewed up his pencils and he goes to ask Homer, and Homer's just got like one in his mouth and one in his ear and one up his nose.
More than should be physically possible to have on a person. It's
It's so
every
funny.
episode is just, I mean, Mr. Sparkle. There are so, it's like, for the people who are living in this day and age who know nothing but memes, and maybe their only exposure to The Simpsons is memes, because that's probably a lot of teenagers right now. It's like so many of The Simpsons memes come from this season. Grandpa walking into the burlesque house and immediately walking
right back out. Yeah,
like, there are so many iconic moments, and it's just like, talking about being at the peak of your powers. There are so many phenomenal lines. There are so many phenomenal like character moments. Some of the funniest character moments from the background characters, like Hans Moman is in this a lot more than I thought he was, and he's hilarious every time you see him.
Yeah, that bit where he gets left in the X-ray machine, and the bit where he's in the bit where she's all like, "Oh, that's funny. It looks like that car's crashed into the wall," and then he just leans out and he's all like, "Help me!" Yeah, like so funny. I think that in general, though, like. The only because I was also thinking, I haven't watched it for a while, the whole season. Like I've watched select episodes like recently, but I've not watched the whole thing. And I was all like, maybe it will have aged badly. And obviously, Mr. Sparkle wise, man, that depiction of Japanese people's not great, is it?
Yeah.
And similarly, obviously, like I cringe pretty hard whenever Apu's on the screen now.
Yeah.
But like,
and the thing is, it's not just Mr. Sparkle. There's a few like obviously the Yakuza are in the
the Yakuza, that's so offensive.
Yeah,
like
I mean, the forgiveness, please, because the minute he says it's like, I know for a fact that no one Japanese was even involved in this episode in any way. Like that's an American man's voice.
Yeah,
and Zaria, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, but like. In general, though, I didn't think it was like compared to some other things that we've watched and other things that I've seen recently. It wasn't like I wasn't like cringing out of my skin all the time. So obviously the other two that I really enjoyed were obviously You Only Move Twice, which is just
one of
so
the greatest
full
episodes of television ever.
Like. And there's the obvious jokes, but like the one where he's got this jacket on backwards, it's just still the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's that static shot of him just grinning with his jacket on backwards. Yeah. And it's like, but the bit where he gives him the sugar loose from his pockets. Oh my god, like I was just like, it's just such a stupid detail. Yeah. And like, it's one of the thing is that there's so many things in this season of The Simpsons where you can kind of feel the writers giggling to themselves. Like they've come up with an idea that's so stupid that it doesn't even make any sense. And then they're just all like, let's put that. It's the way he's all like, do you you need cream? And Homer's all like, no.
I don't know if you saw it, but one of the best things to come from the pandemic was that some of the Simpsons writers on Twitter started basically doing AMAs and answering where certain jokes came from, where they evolved from, who wrote them, blah, blah. And one thing that came up, and I don't think it was ever really resolved, was someone said in the joke where Scorpio says, "Have you ever seen a man throw his shoes?" And Homer goes, once. Is he referring to what he just saw? Or had he seen it previously to that? And the writer was like, I actually can't remember. Like the person who wrote the joke can't remember what the explanation was, and he just knew that the line worked.
Yeah, and like the noise whenever Marge has a small sip of wine. That bit where Bart's in the bit where Bart's in the class and the guy pats him on the back and then slaps him. Oh my god! Like it's just I love
terrorized by the forest.
Yeah, I love that little bit as well where he starts the Cypress Creek video and then Homer's all like, "Oh, what else is on?" And Marge is all like, "You're trying to convince us to move there." Like, Yeah, like Otto being all like, "Whoa, Windows! This place is too expensive for me." It's just like,
It's line after line after line. And for one of the like, there are certain people who just work on The Simpsons, and Albert Brooks really is one. Like Hank Scorpio. I actually have to applaud the Simpsons writers for their restraint in not reusing that character, because he's one of the best one-off characters they've ever. He's
yeah,
fantastic.
he's
He's
so
so good.
funny. And it's just like, what I love is the idea that he's like a Bond villain, but also the best boss in the world, and he
Yeah.
really genuinely cares about his employees. And that bit where, like, obviously there's that bit where Homer tackles James Bond, but then like the bit where he gets his flamethrower out and he's just burning those soldiers, and he's all like, "You're missing out on a hell of a day, Homer." It's just like,
It's brilliant. Yeah,
yeah,
I love
it's
it.
so good, and it's just so funny all the way through. That's the thing,
Yeah,
is that like, one thing that I'm just absolutely staggered by is how much funny stuff they managed to fit into a single episode.
yeah.
So many good jokes
I
in
remember,
every one.
and once again, I can't remember what it's called, but you can probably find it if you Google it. There's this YouTube video called "The Economy of Comedy," and it's talking about what makes a good sitcom, or not even what makes a good sitcom, what makes a successful comedy, and what a lot of networks look for is how frequently do the laughs fall.
Mm.
So I think Big Bang Theory, of all the sitcoms they studied, Big Bang Theory, I think they aim for a joke like at least every minute and a half, if not more. And I think Friends has to be at least every 3 minutes. It can vary from episode to episode, but the average was every 3 minutes. And The Simpsons, I think, is probably maybe quicker than both of those, more frequent than both of those, and they're all good.
It
They're
feels
all
like there's
good.
a joke every 30 seconds, and
And if it's not
all of them
visual,
are funny.
if it's not audio, it's visual. There's always
Yeah,
something. Someone's doing something in the back. There is the amount of sight gags. It could be a newspaper, a billboard, just someone doing something weird in the back. That is not
yeah.
even the focus of the scene. It's just something that's in the scene.
Yeah, and it's just the little like character. Like there's that bit in that one where Homer's all like, "Are you guys working?" And they're like, "Yes, we are." And he's all like, "Could you work any harder?" And they're all like, "Sure." And then they all just start typing faster. And it's
Yeah,
just like, it's such a stupid depiction of what it's
working
of
hard.
working harder. And then Homer just looks really pleased with himself. Like he's just like he's just done, and it's just so stupid. Like the get out a circle of paper, it still gets me every single time. And like when they're playing musical chairs and it cuts to above and there's just way more chairs than kids and stuff,
Yeah,
like yeah, I just like, it's so funny all the
it
way
really is.
through, and I just could not believe how good it was. Those two were the ones that I knew. The one that shocked me was the one with the Sideshow Bob episode.
So good.
Um,
So
because
good.
yeah, like I obviously all the Sideshow Bob episodes are pretty good, but what
Yeah.
I've forgotten is how much of that one just completely relies on you having watched Frasier.
Frasier. Yeah.
Like it's just like
But
that
the
bit where
marriage
it
joke
cuts.
in there.
Yeah, the bit where it cuts to the interstitial screen and it's just all like, Frasier is a popular sitcom on NBC.
Yeah.
It's just like, um, and yeah, like it's. I think that what that really benefits from is that obviously Kelsey Grammer and David Hyde Pierce already have this kind of easy chemistry. They're
Yeah.
already used to working together, and so they just slide back into that absolutely effortlessly.
Yeah.
And like, and it's so. And the thing is that
It
like,
actually does a really great job of, as people who have seen several Sideshow Bob episodes now, you believe what the kids believe,
yeah,
and you're like, oh, Sideshow Bob has obviously done something. And so it's funny, like even rewatching this now, knowing the twist, I thought like it's actually really well done. All signs
yeah.
point to Bob being the villain.
That bit where he's all like, "Oh, so when it's one of my plans, you can't foil it quick enough, but when it's Cecil, it's
hopeless.
it's just such a Frasier and Niles moment."
Yeah.
And similarly, like all of the bits where the bit where he's singing to himself as he's laying the dynamite along the top of the dam is so funny, and I couldn't even point you to why. But my favorite line in the whole thing is that bit at the end where he's all like, "Tell them they'll live to regret this," and Sideshow Bob's just like, "You'll live to regret this." And he's all like, "Oh great, now I sound guilty." And it's just like, it's so.
Every line in it is great. Every single line.
And what I love is that they've just carried across Niles and Frasier's petty brotherhood squabbles into just a completely alien scenario where they're trying to murder people and kill children, and it's just exactly the same, and that's what's funny about it. It's so good. Like, even, that one was
even what time do they introduce the menus? It's something you can imagine now saying in an area where he's completely out of his element and just not realizing it's not like the country club. It's so well done.
Yeah, and when he suggests the two wines, and he's all like, anything that's not been brewed under a radiator, and Niles is all like, well, this one then. And it's just like, and that is just a Frasier joke. Yeah. Like, that's just a we're snobby about wine joke.
Yeah.
And it's so good. The bit as well where he's all like, I don't know if you've heard, but I've had a bit of a problem with murdering people, and he's all like, "Oh no, Bob, I have been living under a rock, so I was not aware that you've been trying." And it's just, it's every single bit of that episode had me absolutely cracking up all the way through. Hurricane. Yeah,
I was gonna say Homer's phobia. Like, John Waters is another one of those people, like, perfect Simpsons guest. And once again, like, a little on the nose for what you could get away with today. Yeah. But I like that. I mean, other than maybe the steel mill scene, what I would say is that queer people aren't the punchline. It's Homer's homophobia that is the punchline. It's Homer as an ignorant person.
Yeah, I mean, the steelworkers scene though is really funny. That's the thing, is that it is really funny. And again, it's not like,
where have you been? The entire steel industry's been gay for decades.
Yeah, and it's not even like, and again, it's not like the joke is these are gay caricatures. The joke is that Homer thinks that place full of huge men in tank tops and handlebar mustaches is really manly. Yeah. But yeah, like, we work hard, we play hard is like, it is really funny. And similarly, I think the only bit that bothers me a little bit.
Why did you bring me to this gay steel mill?
Yeah.
There's something about that line delivery which is just fantastic.
Yeah. The other thing I really loved in that episode was the bit where Bart's just all like, "Hey, look, Lisa, pogo stilts. They're banned in 50 states." And then he just lets go of one of them and it fires off into the distance. You just hear Homer in the distance being all like, "Ah!" It's just like, it's such a stupid, like, oh man, yeah.
Sadness in Homer's voice because he has no idea why he's been hit with the pogo.
Oh yeah. I thought
as we talk, and there was just so many. I mean, we got to breeze through them. I mean, like, I'd say one of the weaker ones for me. It's funny because I remember loving it a lot more when I was younger. The Poochie episode is a bit weak.
I enjoyed that a lot. I really enjoyed that.
Lines, like, my planet needs me and stuff like that. I think it's got a bit of a weird pacing thing where it doesn't really know what to do once Homer is Poochie and it's unsuccessful. I don't think they know where to go.
I love the boardroom scenes in that. The bits when she's the lady who keeps on being all like, "We need somebody who's synergized and energetic," and like, and it's yeah, and it's just so stupid. And like, the sequence with the bit where they're doing the, do you want Itchy and Scratchy to be in more grounded situations or more crazy situations, and they're twisting the knobs, and he's all just like, and they just want everything, and then the guy's like, and then the guy turns the mirror and he's all like, "You kids don't know what you want because you're idiots," and then Ralph just turns his knob to, "I don't like that." It's so funny.
Ralph has some great moments this season.
I also really love the bit when the episode finishes and everybody just sits there awkwardly, and Homer's all like, and then they all say horrible things about it, and then Homer's all like, "So what did you think?" But yeah, like, I think that episode's pretty good. It's not, it's not one of my top 5, but I think I'd put it quite high up compared to a lot of
It is
the
fun.
others.
Like I said, I mean, it's just an outstanding season. I mean, like, so the Sherry Boppins episode also not great, but it's not great in comparison to the rest of the season. As a standalone episode of television, it's so much fun.
Yeah, and it does have the sight gag at the end where she gets sucked into the jet engine is really, really funny.
Homer attacking every potential nanny because he keeps thinking that they're pulling a
because he thinks they're Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh, I saw that movie. Yeah, I think that the only problem with that one is that obviously it relies too much. It is straying a little bit into it's just Mary Poppins, except that the Simpsons are dicks. I do, however, love the part where Bart's just throwing cupcakes at the wall. I just like it's just such a stupid thing for him to be doing. He's just dashing cupcakes at his wall. Yeah, and like I feel kind of the same about the Treehouse of Horror one because I kind of always feel a bit like that. Like there's so I can't remember what the 3 things were. The one with the aliens and the presidential race is really funny. That's really, really funny. Like that bit where he's all like, well, if you could think of a better way of exchanging lung protein strings, then let me know. But also the whole bit where he goes to all the presidential debates, like where he's all like abortions for none and stuff, and the twirling towards the future. Like that's all really funny. I can't. Oh, the Lisa grows a tooth civilization in the tiny pot is just nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's just really not very funny. Although I do like the bit where she sits down on the throne and one of them's all like, God? And then they just start asking like mundane questions. I can't even remember what the third Treehouse of Horror bit was.
I can't either.
I mean, I think that probably says something about how not memorable it was. I'll check on my phone. Back to the good ones though. Hurricane Neddie's so good, isn't it?
So I think I text this to you during the week. Ned calls Mo a hateful, ugly little man. And it might be my favorite line reading in the entire Simpsons. Whoever, I don't know who is Ned Harry Shearer?
I can't remember which one he is.
He's always been amazing as Ned, but that is one of his best performances, if not his best performance. It's such a good episode. Him as Ned's beatnik dad.
Oh my god, yeah. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
That up and became stupid beatniks.
And it's also the bit where Mo turns around and is all like, hey, I may be ugly and hate filled, but what was the third thing you said?
That entire scene is gold.
Yeah, it's so funny.
The only one of you morons that doesn't make me laugh.
Yeah, oh my god, it's so funny. And like the whole premise of that one's so good, like the hurricane, and then like I love that bit at the start where he's all like there's no hurricanes in the Springfield, and Lisa's all like, yeah, but the records only go back to 78 when the records office was mysteriously blown away. The bowling alley, it's all like Barney's Bowleramas back open at its new location, teetering above the gorge, and it's just like on a mountain rocking. Oh my god!
So many good moments in that. So many good moments. Like, and just there's a moment. It's such a little line, but like when someone goes to give Ned the good news about the house, he's like, "Oh, you have to come quick," and he's like, "What now? Did the rubble catch fire?"
Yeah.
It's just got so many great lines like that.
The bit where they walk past that room and he's all like, the rest of the house doesn't have electricity, but this room has too much electricity.
You might want to wear a hat.
Oh my god. And also obviously the sight gag with the tiny door. Like that's really funny because obviously it's got like it's just a perspective shot. But then that episode's so funny. And it's so also, what I think is interesting about that one is that it's actually quite light on plot and side plot and stuff. It's got no B plot. It's just that one thing that's happening, and it's so funny all the way through. And the other Treehouse of Horror bit is
So you just say it touches on something that this season actually does incredibly well. So which is like, I mean, the whole plot revolves around his repressed anger, but then that actually literally explains his entire character.
Yeah.
You know, it's a joke, but it gives us this new element to him that we didn't know about. And there's a few other moments in the season that are like that for certain characters. And yeah, they were just firing on all cylinders. It's amazing how many of the episodes are like that.
Yeah, the third Treehouse of Horror is the one with Bart's evil twin in the attic, which
Hugo, yeah.
isn't very funny,
No.
really. Like,
Having said that, have you seen the new Adidas Simpsons collaboration?
if not, no.
So one of the sneakers is a Hugo color, like colorway. Sorry, and one of the like nice little details they've done is each inner side of the shoe has the scar.
Oh, okay.
Detail, yeah. It's a fun episode. I didn't hate it. I do love the moment when Dr. Hibbert is like, "You've never even looked in the mirror."
Yeah, and he punches him. Yeah, that's so funny. And in fairness, I also really like the bit at the end where they just lock Bart in the attic, and he's all like, "Can I have some?" And they're all like, "Finish your fish heads, and then we'll talk." And then Marge just closes the vent so that he can't see them anymore. Oh man, yeah, that's really funny. But yeah, like, and obviously the last one in my top 5, which I wanted to talk about, is the one where Milhouse's parents get divorced.
Oh my god, I did not remember it being that funny.
It's so funny all the way through.
So many good lines in it.
Yeah, the dignity bit is really, really funny. Obviously you put it on Instagram, but the North Korean fortune cookies joke, where she's just all like, "They were so mean. You were a coward. No one wants to hear that after a meal."
The whole season is littered with just like one-off lines like that. But that episode is so tight. It's so funny. Like, and it's moment after it's the dignity scene. Then it's him being like, "Do you sleep in a sports car?" "Sleep in a bed with my wife."
Yeah, I sleep in a big bed with my wife.
Good jokes.
Yeah.
Homer laughing at the "Can I borrow a feeling?" And then like the thing is, "Can I borrow a feeling?" just as a sight gag, amazing on its own. Then you hear the song and it's awful. It's so good. Like the entire episode is so good.
Yeah, the bit when the guys knock on Kirk's apartment and it's the dead raccoon in the pool joke is just so funny. Oh my god, it's so depressing, that place. Milhouse just driving that car around the house, smashing things. This mum being all like, "You have fun, honey." It's just so funny. And
later on in the season, where Milhouse is the night watchman at a factory that does nothing, he says, "At least I'm doing better than Dad."
Yeah. It's also, obviously, it's got the "we don't know if single people eat crackers and we don't want to" joke, which is, I think, one of the funniest scenes in the entire show. Like, it's just like, I don't recall saying "good luck." It's just it's so funny. It's just like, what I love about it is that, like, it's just such a horrible selection of things to happen to Kirk, and then the resolution at the end is just nothing. It's just much like the Frank Grimes one. The structure of the episode is lots of terrible things happen to this person, and then that's what happens.
Like, it's amazing because most sitcoms are built on that foundation of, unlike other media, you have to end up back where you started.
Yeah.
Kirk's just single and looked at as a loser by everybody.
Yeah, and like the bit where Luann is going out with the gladiator and he rolls off in that big metal ball as well. That's such a stupid joke. Yeah. Like the idea that the gladiators would just hang out in their fucking ball. Oh man, yeah, like that one was so funny. And I also really love when Luann's all like, "Oh," and she draws dignity, and then it doesn't show it, and everyone's all like, "Oh yeah, that's dignity." It's just like,
so one thing we have to talk about, because I've spoken about the amazing choice of special guests throughout this whole season. Johnny Cash as the space coyote. Like, I'm sorry, whoever came up with that is an absolute genius.
Yeah, it's such. I think what's really interesting about that is that, like, generally the people they get on are actors or celebrities. And often when it's the celebrities, you can kind of tell it's a little bit wooden. But like Johnny Cash's voice performance there is
It's so
one of
good.
the best pieces of voice acting I've ever heard in my life. And it's just like, why is Johnny Cash so good at this? Like,
Right?
how could he possibly be doing such a good job of something so stupid? Like, that bit where
The joke of this is just your memory. I can't give you any new information. It's such a simple line, but to this day, it kills me. It's so good. It's such a simple joke, but it's just, oh man, everything about that
yeah.
episode is so effective. First of all, the visuals.
Yeah,
Gorgeous when you have
it's
release
gorgeous.
station.
It's so beautifully animated. The whole, I guess that this the desert was just this sand trap, and the pyramid was just the pro shop, which for some reason is just on top of that giant pyramid.
Yeah.
And he's all like, and the talking coyote was just that talking dog, and then the dog's like, "Find your soulmate, Homer," and he's all like. But then it's the way he turns around and he's all like, "Hey," and the dog just barks and he's all like, "That's
Damn
better."
straight.
Like, damn straight. Oh my god, yeah.
One thing I never got before when I was younger was I was like, why does Marge think that Homer was drunk? Because she gets mad, and that's the whole point for him finding Homer. But when you as we watched, I realized, okay, but so because I was like, no one told her that, and that's kind of the beauty of it, and it's actually really well written. She just interprets what Helen says as Homer got shit faced drunk.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's just
And
a
obviously
simple,
she sees him pouring beer on himself
so
and
she
he's
puts two and
acting
two
really
together. And
weird.
it's actually like in my head when I was younger, I was always like, that's really bad writing, but it's not. It's actually really good writing. And it's actually weirdly for The Simpsons, it's realistic. You know, she put two
Yeah.
and two together and just assumed he went on a bender. And it's like,
I
no.
love the start with the big hole in the newspaper and then Marge just smoking. And he's all like, "Hey, you don't smoke," and she's all like, "I just wanted the cool, refreshing taste of a cigarette." And it's just like, it's so stupid. And the lighthouse, Earl, the electronic robot lighthouse, and like, and
Is
also,
that Batman? Is that dad? Either that or Batman's really let himself go. Like,
yeah.
so many snappy jokes.
And then at the end, the bit at the end when with the hot pants is just so like the fact that he's just like, "We've got to protect our precious cargo," and the other guy's all like, "Do you mean the hot pants?" And he's all like, "Aye, the hot pants." And it's just like, what is that? Where is that big shipment of hot pants going? And then it's got the short. Oh my god!
So we'll wrap it up because otherwise we'll just be here all day because we really could. But
wait, no, we're only like 40 minutes in. I've got a couple more I want to talk about.
okay, I was gonna say because at least the babysitting is an episode that when I was younger I didn't love as much, but I really appreciated it this go around. And there's so many little things. I don't know why it tickled me so much. Homer being caught in the sprinkler.
Yeah, Homer being caught in the sprinkler. Him just parking in the middle of that place.
You idiot!
Like I particularly like that the place that they park is like a giant mural of children holding hands and taking care of each other. That's so funny.
Yeah.
The obviously it's easy to go over, but the 18th Amendment one has the catapult gag, and Rex Banner is another. He's another fantastic one-off character. He's so funny. I really love "I'll get you, Booze Baron," and then in the distance, "No, you won't." And obviously, like Marge being all like, "Well, that's very clever, Homer, with this stupid scheme." But also, like my favorite line in that is the bit where he's all like, "Marge, I don't want to lie to you," and then just leaves. It's just like, it's so good. Yeah, like all of that, and the best damn pet shop in town. Yeah. Like, I think that's
wall jokes. It's so good.
Yeah, like that's really, really funny.
Chief Wiggum being so broke that he sells the handle of his gun.
Yeah. I sold the trigger. It's the bit with the news report where he's all like, "The mysterious clouds of liquor over Evergreen Terrace have removed." It's
also,
like
Rex Banner not knowing how to physically laugh.
Yeah. When Homer's pretending that the fucking that the explosion's in his stomach and he's just being all like, "Oh, bang, boom." Must be that bean I had for dinner. Yeah, like that was really funny. I actually, although it was the last one thing, I really enjoyed the Bart and Lisa go to military school one. Especially the you guys will have to move in with Company L. and the joke about that was really funny. I want to see my face in that horse. I want to see my face in that horse's ass. Like, yeah, the bit where Bart's really good with the weapons is obviously really. And the little gag where he's all like, "Well, you've come from a
car."
yeah, but you've come from a public school education, so we assume you're proficient with basic firearms." It's just so.
There are a few jokes where it's like, geez, and one of them is the bomb joke in the St. Patrick's Day episode.
Yeah, oh my god, like that was so like I could not help. That's the 18th Amendment one, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Like that was really. It reminds me. Have you ever seen that tweet with Jerry Adams from Sinn Féin where he's like, it's like just a tweet from him complaining about how many Christmas lights he has to turn off, and someone's replied just being all like, "Surely you know someone who can fit a timer," which yeah. But yeah, like, I guess you kind of forget though that like I think that the thing is that it has been so long now that Irish terrorist jokes have definitely fallen out of like the public consciousness, haven't they? So when you see something from 1995 that's like, because that's close to the bone for 1995, isn't it? Like,
it really. I mean, and this is the thing. It's become such an icon of modern pop culture that you forget there was a point when it was considered really edgy. But
yeah.
Jeez, how that? I mean, and I know there's been a thing where it was confirmed a long time ago that apparently Fox literally weren't allowed to censor them or tell them they couldn't air certain things. So maybe this was one of those things where they couldn't have had pushback on. But I remember watching it and thinking, wow, that really, for obvious reasons didn't hit when I was younger, but now you're already like, that's a bit much.
Yeah. And the other one that I really, really, really loved was the one where Mr. Burns loses all his money. And he gets put in the old people's home, and then Lisa does the recycling with him. Like, primarily that bit where Bret the Hitman Hart is buying his house is
Bret the Hitman Hart.
It's so funny the way he's being all like, "Oh, it smells like old man in here." The shrieking sheik lives down the block, and then you just hear him screaming in the distance. The bit with Barney licking the windows of the factory, like
it's the way he closes the window back on him mid-speech. Yeah,
and obviously that bit where he's all like, "I saw your demonstration with the fish caught in the six-pack holder." It's just like Mr. Burns is so horrible that like he can't quite comprehend. And also obviously all the stuff with the hippie guy at the place where he's being all like, "Recontextualize, man." Yeah, like, oh my god, like, and it's when he accuses one of them of being an anachronism. That's so funny. The bit where Mr. Burns is all like, "Why didn't you tell me about this stock market crash?" And Smithers is all like, "Well, it was 12 years before I was born."
That's your excuse for everything.
Yeah, that's true. And then when he's like, "We need to re-diversify our portfolio," and he's all like, "Put it in the hats." I can't remember what the list of companies he puts it in is, but they're all like stupid ancient garbage. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I kind of just, because again, there are some of them, like when Mountain of Madness came up and I saw the title, I thought it was the Murder Horn episode, and I was really excited because I was all like, "Oh my god, is that one this season as well?" But it's not. It's the one where Homer and Mr. Burns get trapped under the snow and go mad, which is still really funny, but like not as funny as the Murder Horn one.
I do like the B story just being that the kids are really annoying Smithers.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, and in fairness, that's also got that scene where Homer tries to park and the car just slides around, which is really really silly. And yeah, like the X-Files one was really interesting because like that's such a clear, like that's quite a, it's just that pop culture reference.
Yeah,
but like obviously because it's in such an intensely 90s pop culture reference, it's actually very nostalgic for me. And it was like that bit where she's all like, there's some drug smugglings, and Mulder's all like, "Why would the FBI be bothered about that?" we've got aliens to investigate.
Yeah.
Obviously, the bit where Homer's taking the lie detector test and they ask if he understands and it explodes is just excellent. And like, yeah, I don't know, like so much of that is so funny.
I mean, the
Like,
explanation for what the alien is in the first place is just so stupid.
it's so stupid. Years in the nuclear power plant's given me a healthy glow. Um, and yeah, like this won't hurt a bit until I jam this down your throat with the giant thing covered in blades. Yeah, like that whole thing was really funny. I really liked
of the orchestra getting off the bus. So they're
yeah,
playing
that's
this
so fun. Yeah,
so stupid. And like you say, it's those things where you just know it was a room full of people trying to make each other laugh.
yeah,
And it just translates to screen, it's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that the start of the Marge starting the pretzel business one with the Investors Club was really funny. Obviously it kind of
great character.
Yeah, obviously it kind of goes off the rails a bit after that. But I do like that bit where Chief Wickham's all like, "Man, I don't know what to tell you, man, but if I were you, I'd jump into the air like I'm planning to." Before the van explodes.
So Skinner being like blackmailed and being like, being threatened and being like, I believe it was a boating accident.
Yeah. Oh my god. The bit where in fairness, again, it's kind of a dicey joke, but the bit where she's all like, the Middle East, isn't that whole area kind of iffy? But then the lady is trying to like give all of the Middle Eastern things like Western appropriate names, and then obviously the chef's there and she's all like, that's our chef David, is really funny. Like, that's so stupid. And like, but like also again, it's kind of a thing where the joke isn't the Middle East is bad. The joke is American people are racist. And that's why, again, like, I think that there's kind of a level at which even the jokes where I'm all like, oh, he won't get away with it now. And the reason why the Irish bomb joke stands out is because generally they're really good at punching up. Like, they're almost always, the joke is never at the expense of the marginalized group. It's always at the expense of the privileged white American. And that's what makes so much of it so funny.
Yeah.
And that's also why, in a lot of ways, it hasn't aged that badly. Like, it hasn't necessarily like.
I mean, like, yeah, you have the Japanese moments and whatnot, but there was a lot less of that than I was almost wincing going into it and thinking there's going to be some of that, and really, there's not that much of it.
It's in fact, it's kind of the country where like it's extremely depressing how many of the jokes are still so relevant. It's been nearly 30 years since these episodes of The Simpsons first aired, and a lot of the gags about American culture are still completely relevant to now, which is just like so horrible and depressing. I loved that bit in the burlesque house bit one where Homer's left to take care of Bart and he's just terrible at it, and then there's that long sequence where she knocks on the door and you can hear him ripping the bag to put on his pants, and then he opens the door and she's all like, are you wearing a garbage bag? It's just so funny. It's just
like Homer is terrible, but there's one thing I really realized about this season. I love episodes when the members of the family are getting on with each other.
Yeah.
There's just something about it, like Bart and Lisa. I much prefer episodes when they're a team and not at each other's sides. And Bart and Homer, when they get on, have some of the best moments in the whole thing. I really like it when the family in general like gets
that bit in Bart After Dark where he's all like, I was just trying to punish the boy like you would have, so really you've dropped the ball here. And then he like does this sly look at her to see what the response to that is.
Did that land?
She looks really.
I think we've pretty much covered every episode. Lisa's babysitting. I don't know why it works so well for me, but the dream sequence she has, I love that it comes to fruition exactly as.
It's the fact that it's so stupid for them to be all like, you're a bad babysitter, and then that's exactly what happens. They're all like, she's a bad.
It's word for word what she imagined, and you're thinking, an 8-year-old would think something that ridiculous, and then it's literally what happens.
It's also the escalation as they're going, as Bart's getting more and more like that shot of him sliding down the hill, and Chief Wiggum being all like, "Wait a second, that wheelbarrow," and then he's all like, "Nice, that's a great wheelbarrow." It's just again, it's so fucking stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I think we've covered most of them. We haven't talked about the one where Lisa and Nelson start going out. I thought it was
episode.
I thought it was alright.
I mean, I like Nelson's rendition of "Joy to the World."
Yeah,
I do think it's an interesting idea for an episode. There's not much to it. It's fine. It's good.
no, there's not much to it, but it is kind of like there are definitely some bits in it. The bit where Milhouse is like, "What are big sisters for?" is really funny. Like that's so funny. He's all like, "You shouldn't have said that, Milhouse." That's really funny. We haven't covered the one
Simpsons
where
showcase.
oh, that's shit.
Yeah,
That's so shit. Like that
because
barely had
that
any
blurb that
jokes.
Troy McClure gives you at the beginning, you almost feel like it's real because it is so thrown together. It's like,
yeah,
was this a mandate from Fox? Because it's not very good.
yeah, like somebody asked them to do that and they did it as badly as possible. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand that what it is like a pastiche of those ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't hate the Chief Wiggum and Principal Skinner.
Yeah, I don't hate that either.
like detective one, especially the bit where he's stolen the governor's mansion, and the bit where Big Daddy runs into his chair all sweaty and then turns around and Chief Wiggum's all like, "You!" It's just that's really funny. And then the middle one is the Mo and the haunted love tester one, which is obviously like a really straight sitcom parody with the laugh track and stuff, and isn't great.
I do love that there's like, you've got this canned laughter in between. Grandpa's like, "Why can't I die? I've been suffering for so long."
Yeah, like that is. But the last one with the variety show is absolutely terrible. It's really not funny.
It really
like again,
feels like I remember you saying when we reviewed the Matrix, whatever Matrix 4 is called, that maybe because Wachowskis knew that whatever happened, Warner Brothers was gonna remake it. It was like, if we remake it, maybe we can do it so badly they just leave the franchise alone. And it feels like maybe Matt Groening said, "Look, if they're going to keep bothering us for a spin-off, maybe we should show them why that's a bad idea."
Yeah, I mean, I did think that what was really funny about it was that at the end, there's like a gag about how The Simpsons has been running for too long and they're running out of ideas.
Yeah.
Which in season 8 from 1996 is really funny because, like, obviously, like, that's actually like, and that bit at the end where Troy McClure's all like, wedding after wedding after wedding is kind of what The Simpsons does now, which is really funny.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, there's the laddie one, which again has a couple of funny jokes in it, I guess. Like I think that one just
that. You know what I realized when I watched it? I don't know if you remember, but it starts with Santa's little helper running into the door when the mail turns up, and you realize, oh, he's not been in this season much. And so it's like it's very efficient because it starts off by reminding you that he is the character. So when we get into this episode, you're like, oh yeah, they have a dog, because he's barely in the rest of the season.
Yeah, but it was like, I thought that it again, it's like one of those things where it's fine, I guess. Like, it's not particularly Marge giving advice at the church is fine. I liked the bit where it shows how the Reverend got really upset. Like, with Ned.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, it's these little gags, but then you realize that, he wasn't always this person.
Yeah.
And then Ned Flanders just slowly eroded his spirit until he just didn't care about anything.
Yeah, like, I also love that the advice she gives Mo is that he's all like, "Oh, I haven't got anything to live for," and she's all like, "Oh, Mo, you've got plenty to live for," and he's all like, "Reverend Lovejoy never says that." It's just like the idea
that the moment where she gives the bad advice, like, they were about to leave.
Yeah.
And then he pisses them off and they stay. Like, I love it. If she just said nothing, the teenagers would have gone and Ned would have been fine.
Yeah, I also really love the bit where Mo rings back and he's all like, "This problem's about my cat," and then it meows and he's all like, "I'm asking her." Like that's. Oh, actually, we missed in the X Files episode that gag with Mo having the
The
stolen killer
whale.
whale is really, really funny. Like it's just
You know what I love about The
so.
Simpsons? It's not just that season. It varies from like episode to season, episode to episode. How big is Moe's?
Yeah, obviously. And yeah, and then the only other ones are obviously the boxing one, which yeah,
It's
not
fine.
yeah, it's just fine. Like it,
Yeah.
I
You know, it's
it
funny.
kind of
So this is going to sound silly. I used to hate that episode for the silliest reason, which is that like Homer has fought a bunch of times in a bunch of other seasons, and he's like notoriously a very good fighter because he's just like a rowdy drunk. And then in the episode about him being a boxer, he can't fight to save his life.
yeah.
So yeah, I know it's just cartoon logic, but when I was young, it's like it used to really bother me.
I do love the joke where he's all like worked his way up from the boxcars, did he? And he's all like, well, you know, he's still he's still there. And then it's all like he's only stopping to check on his bindle. He's got like a fucking napkin tied around a stick and he keeps on stopping to just look at it. And similarly, like the fact that then Homer just fights that succession of homeless people. It's like, what is this boxing league that he's in? But yeah, I think that that's one of the ones which kind of suffers for not having loads of the other people in it. Like
Yeah.
it's just Homer and Mo all the way through, and
Does it
like
even have a B story? Because I don't think
I
it
don't
does.
I don't think so. No, I think it's just the thing. I do like when he's getting knocked out and he thinks of all the people's faces, and then it's just got the guy from Rocky. That's really really funny, and obviously like Dredrick Tatum as a character is all
It's
like the
great.
bit where he's all like Homer Simpson seems like a nice guy, but I am gonna make orphans of his children. And like that's really the bits where he's talking about having pushed his mum down the stairs are just so funny. Like,
Just even when he's in
yeah,
jail, he's like, "Hey, shut up," and the entire jail just stops right.
yeah. The Don King parody as well, where he's all like, "You've never heard of him? He's exactly as famous and rich as Don King, and he looks like him."
Like,
Like,
no, yeah, I'm so glad we chose to watch this. It's made me smile so much. It's
yeah.
amazing
I mean,
that
what I would say
I
is,
mean,
as well, I watched 21 of the 25 episodes in one day. I sat
yeah,
down and watched. I started watching it in the evening. Beth watched, I don't know, 10 of them with me. And then she was all like, I'm kind of Simpsons out. I'm going to go to bed and read.
yeah,
And I sat and watched The Simpsons until like 1 o'clock in the morning when I was all like, I've got to go to bed.
yeah.
And then I watched the last four the next day. And it was just like, it was so funny.
It really was.
And like,
I didn't skip. I don't know about you, but I didn't skip couch gags. Like I loved all of it. And like,
I was skipping the intro because Disney Plus asked me if I wanted to, and I was all like, sure, why not?
yeah,
Like, you know, like I'm not gonna watch the. I watched the theme song for the first episode. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like that's generally when I'm binging. What I do is I do generally because I like theme songs and I like title sequences,
yeah.
and I'll watch the first one. But if the service I'm on gives me the opportunity to skip them from there on the roll,
Oh, man,
what
I've
annoys me
forgotten it,
about
but one
it.
of the couch gags has like a really meta. Not one of couch gags. One of Bart's uh um chalk when he's doing the blackboard. One of them is really
Mm.
meta. I can't remember what it was now. Oh, it's gonna bug the hell out of me.
I really like that bit where Lisa was doing the lines. She was all like, "How
How
does
does
Bart
Bart
do
do
this
this
every
every
week?" Yeah, like that was a really funny little in joke that I thought was really clever. But yeah, like I just like I cannot believe how funny it is, and I like as somebody who I love comedy and. I don't watch as much comedy now as I used to, and sometimes I think I've kind of grown out of the love of comedy, but actually like I just think it's really hard to find something that hits for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I also
Okay.
kind of think
So
that
sorry, I think I'm just assuming I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that this is an in joke. But later on in the season, one of Bart's chalkboard gags is "I am not my long lost twin."
fair, 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 fair.
Love it.
Um, but yeah, I think that like because I was talking the other day about this. Like, often it takes a little while to get into comedy. Like, you
Mm,
have to kind of sit through a bit of I'm not sure how I feel about this before you start really getting into it. The Simpsons just isn't like that. Like, I remember thinking it was hilarious from the first moment I saw it, and I'd love to find something else that made me feel like that, because
yeah.
fundamentally what I am doing here is just sitting and watching the same episodes of The Simpsons that I've seen hundreds of times, and like there's a level at which I'm kind of like, man, like I a couple of months ago I watched a season and a half of Arrested Development before I was all like,
Mm.
no, I definitely don't like this. Like, I was just
Same.
sat
I
there
love
watching
Arrested
episodes.
Development.
I
I
was
think
just
the only thing
watching.
for me that's given me that feeling in the past decade, because I have gotten that feeling again, but the problem is, and I think you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, pretty much everything that's given me anything close to that feeling, and it's never the exact same feeling you get as The Simpsons, but the only things really that have given me the feeling that's giving me something close to that feeling, they're all derivative of The Simpsons. The only thing I think that stood on its own and made me feel like, oh wow, I didn't know comedy could be this good, for me, is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's the only thing in the past decade where I've been like, this is so good. How is this so good?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. Like,
Yeah.
I've tried watching that too. I think that like there are moments, there are episodes of Community that are really, really funny,
Mm.
but there's only about 5 of them, and they're all in season 2. So then it's a bit like, like, and it's like a 6 season show. So like,
Yeah.
it's that's kind
I
of
mean, I'd maybe give Rick and Morty credit as well, but then once again, Rick and Morty is one of those shows that just doesn't exist without The Simpsons.
and also Rick and Morty is like it's so Rick and Morty is much more focused on one joke per episode. Like, it's like
Yeah.
we're doing a bit this episode, and if that bit works for you, like, I think a good example is the Story Train episode.
Yeah.
Like, that appears to be really divisive. Like, I love that. I think it's probably one of my favorite episodes of Rick and Morty
Me too.
because I'm super into narrative theory.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just hilarious all the way through. But like a lot of people seem to think that that is unfunny garbage.
Yeah. But then
And
don't
and
forget, one of their highest rated episodes is Pickle Rick. So I think that shows you who the majority of the audience is.
yeah, I mean, in fairness, I kind of like the gag at the end of Pickle Rick about him being scared of therapy and the arse wiping and stuff. But yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just yeah, not my favorite. I think that the only other comedy shows that I've watched like in recent years, and even they're not even new really, but I'm a big New Girl fan. I think New
Mhm.
Girl's really really
New Girl, I think,
funny.
lost me maybe after season three, but I did love it up to that point.
You should dip back in. Some of the later seasons are really really good. It
Mhm.
gets weirder and weirder, which is what I'm looking for from comedy
Yeah.
generally. And I watched some, but like yeah, like I always end up going back. I do wonder though if it is about getting older. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's a level at which when I watch comedy that I watched when I was young, I think I can sometimes tap into a version of my brain that was, I don't know, just more open to that
I
kind
think
of
the big thing
thing.
of it is like we have, not just us as people, there's so much has happened and the world is so different now in terms of social media. We're exposed to so much that I don't know if it's possible for something to have the impact the Simpsons did. Like there was so little competition and there was so few things in that format. I mean,
Mm,
in adult animated comedy today, there is I can pick from any number of things, right? So I think how do you I mean, for me, the only things that have really had that impact, and I've noticed like me and a lot of other people enjoying them, but they're all cult things. They're not gonna ever really penetrate the zeitgeist is the things that are just so weird. So like I love I Think You
yeah.
Should Leave. I love
Oh my god, I think you should leave.
right?
Jesus. Actually, that's true, is that you know what, that's relatively recent, and
Yeah.
there are bits of that I'm just literally in tears
Yeah.
crying at because they're so funny. Like, I love the banana suit gag. That's so funny. Like, and yeah, like in fairness, that's full of
I
things.
love like
The
the sloppy steaks, like stuff like that speaks to me completely. Like it's
Yeah.
so weird, but I love it. I love
The,
the
t- the
Andre.
t-shirts with the thing that you tug on the front when he's just talking to those kids about the t-shirt. Oh my god.
And so I don't know if you ever watched it, but I love the Eric Andre show.
Um, yes, I've been trying to watch the Eric Andre show. That's a aggressive show, isn't it? Like that is a hard watch. I really enjoy Nathan For You. Nathan For You's
I was about
really,
to say anything Nathan Fielder does, like I'm
yeah.
100% on board
Nathan
with. Like,
Fielder's so
Earthly
funny.
phenomenal. Yeah, so I love that kind of weird niche. Like, how did this even get greenlit? Like, so
Yeah.
many of these people now are just making stuff, and it's like, how? Who approved it? Who gave him such a budget for it? It's so weird.
That Nathan For You episode where he goes to the job interview and he's feeding him lines through the headpiece, and he's all like, "Tell him you're a paedophile."
Yeah.
And the guy's just all like, "I'm not going to say that." Like,
Yeah.
it's just, and Nathan Fielder sat there on the other end, straight faced, and he looks so upset and offended that this guy won't go to a job interview and say he's a paedophile. Oh God.
I mean, the one. Do you remember? I can't remember what it was for, but it was like his process for not procrastinating is taking a horrible, embarrassing picture of himself, giving it to a trustee, and then saying, "If I don't do the thing I'm supposed to do, send this to my grandma."
Oh man, yeah.
And the picture is like him covered in grease inside a hot dog bun or something. Like, he's just so weird. I love it. And like, so I don't know how much Eric Andre you've watched, but one great thing about him is no one asked him to do this. He's committed to changing an aspect of himself physically every season. That is quite,
yes,
like,
yeah,
striking.
yeah.
And so obviously, the more seasons you go on for, the more you have to push the envelope. You have to do weirder things. So initially, it was like he had a different haircut for the first couple seasons. Then it was like he got extremely tanned. Then he bleached his teeth. Then he shaved all hair on his body. So every season he just gets weirder and weirder because he has to outdo the last season.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just he has exploding desks and yeah.
Yeah. But so actually, let's take a little side note. So, what's your favorite comedy series of all time?
The Simpsons.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think I'd probably go Frasier.
That's a very strong.
I love the farce. I love the farce format. Although I've got to say, I'd struggle between that and 30 Rock. I think 30 Rock's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I so often I think of scenes and things from 30 Rock. What I realized the other day is how many 30 Rock reaction gifs and images I have and just use all the time. Have you watched all of 30 Rock?
Yes. I need to go back and watch it. It's been a while.
So there's an episode where they're trying to name a microwave. And Jack gets the comedy writers to try and name the microwave because they're writers, so they'll come up with something good. And in the end, and it goes through this whole thing where they're like just getting more and more tired, and all the ideas are bad. And he's all like, "Right, I'm just gonna pull tiles out of a Scrabble bag." And we're just gonna call it that, whatever it is. And he pulls the Scrabble tiles out, and it's like PED, and he's all like, "Right, I'm gonna start again." And he's all like, and then he pulls out the tiles the next time, and he's all like NI, and he's all like, "No, I'm gonna start again." And he's like, "Right, I'm just gonna slam down all 6 tiles at once. Whatever they say, we're done." And he smashes them on the desk and takes his hand away, and it just says Hitler. And it's just, I think that is the funniest scene I've ever seen in a TV show. Like, in fairness, I think that Alec Baldwin and Tina Fey, that's the thing, is that I'm a big Tina Fey fan. Like, I think she's
genius. She's a Mean Girls is one of the funniest things anyone has ever written, ever. And I get angry that no one talks about it that much, because it's just, for me, like, there's certain things that, like you said, nostalgia is a big part of it, but there are certain things that are just genuinely like, so I don't hear people talk about it, but Superbad is genuinely just one of the funniest things from start to finish, with such an economy of jokes. And Tina Fey is one of those people. It's like, to write one of the jokes she's written in my entire life, I would be honored. But she was doing that on a weekly basis, as well as at certain seasons also being on SNL. Like, it's insane how talented she is.
I think the thing about Mean Girls is, what's interesting is that, like, I think a lot of men our age and men of most ages haven't seen it, because they're all like, film says girls in title, girls, me not girl. But it's one of the tightest comedy scripts ever written. Like,
it's so good.
It's so good. It's so funny.
Every character in it is hilarious.
Yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, like I think that we should definitely. I think maybe we should watch. Obviously, the problem is that when we watch comedy stuff, it just descends into us repeating other people's jokes and then laughing.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
And I
But
also feel like
like
this is definitely going to be an episode that is going to work real well for people who've watched a lot of The Simpsons, and not so well for people who aren't familiar with The Simpsons.
sorry, Mom.
But yeah, but watch season 8 of The Simpsons. You should go and watch it. Go and watch it right now. It's on Disney Plus. And in case, and what I've noticed is that we're real Disney Plus heavy around here. So maybe you should get Disney Plus if you haven't got it, because man, it's full of great
Disney
stuff.
Plus sponsor us. We're sending people your way.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's
Disney Plus advert.
Unfortunately, there's no advert this week because I'm on strike after a dispute with the person who's in charge of me animating the adverts. Yeah, that person being me. I think I should get paid more, but I also think that I can't afford to pay myself for it, and we're having a real back. Yeah, I'm having a real back and forth about that. So yeah, at the moment,
there's no Matrix minutes. I couldn't think of anything.
No,
so
but Matrix related. You know what we're watching next week?
What are you watching?
Ghost in the Shell.
Okay, cool.
The movie
or Scarlett Johansson. I mean, you like to torture me, so
we're not watching the Scarlett Johansson version. We're watching the original Ghost in the Shell, the movie that is widely accepted to have inspired large portions of the iconography of the Matrix. I thought that would be a nice blend between us watching something that I think you'll enjoy and that's Matrix adjacent, but also is just more anime.
Cool. All right. I can work with that.
Perfect.
Cool. That's really good.
I don't know. Like, I watched a lot of Simpsons this week.
Same. I have nothing this week because I just binged The Simpsons.
I mean, I can tell you. So yesterday, me and Beth went to the cinema. I can give you both a what's really good and a what's not good. So if you live in Nottingham and you're looking for somewhere to go and see a film, and you think, the Savoy on Lenton Lane, on Derby Road in Lenton, sure is cheaper than other cinemas. There's a fucking reason. It's like being in Guantanamo Bay. It's the most uncomfortable place I've ever sat in my entire life. You know, when they talk about torture devices that just force people to be contorted into uncomfortable positions for hours on end, that's what going to the Savoy's like. And also, right, the soundproofing is so bad that when the movie you're watching gets quiet, you can hear the one next door. Yeah. It was like, we got out and I was all like, yeah, there's a fucking reason that was cheaper, wasn't it? It's shit. So, yeah, Savoy Cinema, don't recommend. I'm not going to see...
movie, though? Was it the Taylor Swift?
No. I've not come to a personal resolution on the Taylor Swift movie problem yet. No. But, no, we went to see a recording of a play which was performed in New York called A Little Life, which is based on a book. I'm not going to go into what it was about. The performances were staggeringly good. It was really impressively... the camera work was amazing for a recording of a live play. The set work was good. It was moving and beautiful and the saddest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It was so sad that I didn't cry that much, because by about halfway through, I was all like numb to the intense degree of sad. Yeah, like I had to take like an hour or two after we got out to just breathe heavily because it was so upsetting. But Beth tells me that the book is similar but less depressing. So I would very much recommend that story in the form that I saw it, or any other form, because it was beautiful.
Cool.
I don't think I've watched anything else. Tell you what, I had a fun interaction with my students today where they were talking about something, and one of them was all like, so my students have me and another teacher share the classes, and so we put music on sometimes when they're working. And Stuart, my colleague, lets them choose the music. So often I come in and there's like a list of songs on the desk which say things like Katy Perry or whatever. Like, you know, there's some proper dog shit choices. Obviously, majoritively, because they're 16 to 18-year-olds, it's people I've never heard of. And so, yes, it was going through. And my other class were in today and they saw the list and they were all like, there's a lot of Taylor Swift on that list. And they were all like, "Are there more girls in first year?" And I was all like, "No,
That's me.
like, you know, I was all like, "No, no, well, no, it wasn't me." Actually, I was like, "No, it's mostly boys still." But you know, yeah, like, and one of them was all like, "I don't know any people who, I don't know any men who listen to Taylor Swift." And I was all like, "I listen to Taylor Swift," and he was all like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, all the time, every day. In fact, I'm wearing my Taylor Swift t-shirt." So I got to show them, and I thought I would also show you my Taylor Swift t-shirt.
Go for it.
So this t-shirt has, what I like about this is that I assume you're aware that Taylor has been re-recording her music so that she owns it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've got here is the font.
Is it the red
and
Taylor's version?
it's the pictures from her version, but with the iconography of the original version because I like that more.
Okay.
So it's got the font, and then
Cool.
and then on the back there's just a big picture of Taylor Swift.
Nice.
But yeah, I designed it in Photoshop and had it printed.
Oh, you did it! Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Taylor
because you
Swift
know what?
don't sue us.
Because you know what? It's real hard to find Taylor Swift t-shirts in adult men's sizes.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know Mark Brooks?
I don't know.
He's a very talented artist. Mainly does covers. He can't be bothered to do interiors, even though I wish he would. I think he's a massive Taylor Swift fan. And there's someone else from Marvel, like who's one of the writers at the moment, and he's constantly getting to arguments with his fans online because they're like, "Post more art. Stop talking about Taylor Swift." And he's like, "I will not. Taylor Swift is the best."
Yeah. I followed this guy on Instagram who I originally followed because he was a really cool tattoo artist. And when I went to his Instagram for pictures of his tattoos, what it mostly was him playing heavy metal guitar. And I was all like, oh man, this is a real intersection of things that I like. So I follow him and he like posts pictures of himself playing, he posts like clips of himself playing the guitar and pictures of the tattoos he's done. And then just endless stuff about how much he loves Taylor Swift. And I really enjoy it. And he's like this huge dude with like giant plugs and tattoos all over his neck and face.
See, I don't like Taylor at all, but she seems to make a lot of people happy and she seems to just mind her own business. So like more power to her, I guess.
She makes me very happy.
I also, that was amazing. I don't know if you saw recently, like she urged her fans to vote and like they broke the record for voter like turnout in states. So yeah,
there's a really interesting bit in one of
the
documentaries about her where she's talking about wanting to be more political. It's like 5-6 years ago, whatever, before she first came out as Democratic. And her dad is just like, I understand what you're saying, and it is important, but I already had to buy you a bulletproof car. Like, I would really like it if you didn't do anything that's likely to make people want to kill you. Yeah. And she's just all like, well, sucks to be you because I've made this decision. Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, I think she's great. But you know, like I've started talking about that more on the podcast. I think that there's a level at which I had this moment like a year or so ago where I was listening to Taylor Swift on the bus, and then somebody got on and sat next to me, and I opened Spotify and changed the music because I was worried that they might hear me listening to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And I just had this moment where I was all like, that is so fucking stupid. Like, just be who you are and own what you like. And so I just have started listening to Taylor Swift more, like, because I didn't used to listen to Taylor Swift on the speaker at home too much in case the neighbors heard me, and like that's just fucking business. That's my life. I can like whatever the fuck I want.
You know that I'm like a massive Dolly Parton fan, right?
Yeah, I'm aware that you're a massive Dolly Parton fan.
I had that years ago, and then I think I might have been at HV, and one of my colleagues sat down, and I was like, I wasn't able to scroll quick enough. And he was like, I don't know anyone that knows the album. I was like, I love the album. He's like, me too. And we had never spoken before. We'd worked together for years and never spoken. And he's one of the people I still keep in contact with. And like Dolly is our thing. Like that's what connected us. So
I mean,
like,
I think that like the fact that you have always been like a guy who loves hip hop, and also it's just all like, but I also really love Murder She Wrote. Is has always been kind of inspiring to me. Do you know what I mean? Like you've always been the kind of person who just owns what they like and doesn't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. And like I'm like that about so many things in my life, but not music. And I was just
Yeah.
all like, well, fuck that. It's time to stop with that. So now I just, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I fucking love Taylor Swift.
Good.
In
I like that
fact,
shit, yeah.
I tell you what, Shas. Just to round it out, I'm gonna read you my top artists on Spotify.
Go for it.
So Taylor Swift is first. Then there's Fallout Boy.
Yeah.
Nobuo Uematsu, who is the composer of the Final Fantasy series, Kevin Devine, Lady Gaga, Amelie, who is a lady who records English covers of anime theme tunes, Rage Against the Machine, Nirvana, Eminem, Metallica, and then creeping up recently, I got Proof, because goddamn, I've been listening to a lot of Proof. Dead Prayers. I've been listening to loads of Dead Prayers.
Nice.
And Jason Derulo, because I understand that by all metrics, Jason Derulo's music is terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
he seems like a really nice guy, though.
does seem like a nice guy, doesn't he? But
Yeah.
also, like, there's just something about it, man. Like, I want to dance when it comes on. And
It's the infectious thing of like he's having so much fun that you
Yeah.
feel like a grouch trying to resist it. It's like he's
Yeah.
just enjoying himself. So if he's going solo, I'll go with him.
And he's so silly. It kind of reminds me of, I love Bon Jovi because there's something about something that's deeply silly delivered with a completely straight face that I think is
Yeah.
just super fucking charming.
There's a real like earnest sincerity to Jason Derulo.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like he's so silly, but he thinks he's so cool, and I like that about him.
T-Pain
Yeah.
kind of falls into the same neighborhood. And if you ever listen to much
Yeah.
T-Pain,
In
but
fairness, though,
T-Pain
T-Pain is
listens to
so
really cool
willing
dudes
to
as well.
laugh at himself, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like obviously he's on I'm on a boat with the Lonely Island. So
Yeah.
that's a
So you know what? I'll do a quick what's really good, which is that and I don't know how much of it I've left on the episodes, but you and I have debated the credibility of Drake. I'm a big Drake fan, and over the past few years I've been a big Drake apologist. And he released his newest album, For All the Dogs, which I was really excited about. Like, one thing Drake has done better than any rapper in the past decade is he understands culture as it exists now. He understands meme culture and he understands social media, and he's very clever with his album rollouts. And he'll start like he creates memes before we even know what they are. Like, he's referencing his own lyrics and stuff. And the album cover for this is a dog drawn by his son. Like, and his son has been a big part of the advertising campaign. He's in the music video. His son even raps on the album, and that's very cute. The album is so boring. It's so unbelievably uninspired. And I will always say Drake is incredibly talented, but I feel for the past few releases, he's just leaning on the fact that he's Drake. He's not trying. There's no clever lyricism. There's no witty metaphors. It's not even like the production's outstanding and you could be like, oh, his rapping's a bit lazy, but the production's amazing. The production is just fine. And what's crazy about this release is that I think the next single he's releasing is already on track to go to #1. So he will have equaled Michael Jackson's record. No, he'll break. He's equaled it now. He's equaled it now. He'll break Michael Jackson's record for the most successful male artist of all time. He's already equaled the Beatles, right? And I don't have a problem with that, but it's like this shouldn't be the album to do it because it's not great. You
don't have a problem with that.
He has albums that are fantastic.
The biggest Michael Jackson fan in the world doesn't have a problem with that.
Listen, Drake.
Michael would be rolling over in his grave.
No, see, here's the thing, right? At the height of Drake's career, if Michael was still alive, he would have worked with him.
So what I'm going to say here is that from now on, whenever you say that Drake's actually really talented, I'm just going to replace my face with this. Is he there? Because I find my face doing that.
I'm going to send you some more tracks when we're done.
Okay, well, I'm going to repeat what I said to you in private. The Drake track that you sent me that you said was good sounded like a quarter of a good song repeated 4 times in the most lazy fucking way I've ever heard. And what was most upsetting about it was the really good bit at the end where Drake actually rapped properly for a minute. But that didn't make me like it more. It made me angry. I was all like, if you can do this, why don't you write a whole song, Drake?
That kind of sums up the past few years of his career. So but let's move on. I don't want to end on that. That's a very somber note to end on. Next week we're gonna do Ghost in the Shell, and I'm looking forward to that. Patrick, what's one good thing that happened to you this week?
One good thing that happened to me this week.
Yeah, let's end on that note.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, in general, like my life is absolutely packed with good things. For the first time in my entire life, I've got a job that I'm both good at and enjoy, which is really, really nice. My new class of students are enthusiastic and quite talented and were hardworking, which is really, really nice. And I'm already seeing them produce some really fun, interesting, creative work. And I really love working as a teacher of a creative subject because it just feels like I'm doing something that actually means something to somebody, which is, and that's like, I had this moment a couple of years ago where I was like, man, if I died on the way to work, like the net effect on the world would be that an email address would get cancelled. Do you know what I mean? Like nobody cared. When I worked in tech support and data entry and stuff, no one gave a fuck what I was doing, and it didn't mean anything to me or anybody else. And that was really sad. And now every day I go to work and I do something that is meaningful to both me and other people, and that just makes me happy every day.
Oh, that's a lovely note to end on. Cool. Okay. Everyone, we'll see you next week. Ghost in the Shell. Take care of yourselves. As always, like and support and subscribe and all that good stuff. And yeah, remember what Patrick said. No such thing as guilty pleasures. Enjoy what you enjoy. Wear it on your sleeve. Encourage others to do so. There's so much horrible, terrible stuff going on in the world right now. If there's anything that makes you happy and gives you pleasure, that's not hurting anyone, then embrace it. And yeah.
And also remember, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
See you next week.